Hi everyone, I am Mahesh. I help organizations and cybersecurity professionals to strengthen the detection, understand the modern threats, security operations and the leadership, and the career growth. So in this video, we are going to talk about the threat landscape and eventually discuss about how threat hunting fits into this framework. Okay, with that, let's begin. Let me share the screen. Hope you are able to see the screen. And this is talking about the threat landscape. About me, I just told you. And for more information, you can go and visit my LinkedIn profile. You can get more about my experience with cybersecurity, etc., etc. With that, let me go with the definitions. Before we dive into the threat landscape, the threat management, threat modeling, etc., etc., we need to understand certain definitions. First one is the asset. Asset is an asset is of anything which is having a value. It can be a tangible asset which we can touch, feel, etc. And it can be an intangible asset which is like we cannot touch and see, but it is like the reputation, goodwill, etc. Right? The asset value is like data. The people is the largest asset in the organization. The systems, everything, the process, the procedures, there is a value associated with those things. And when it comes to the vulnerability, most of you know about these definitions. Just for a refreshing or a reiteration of this, I'm talking about this. Vulnerability is any weakness in a system, process, people, etc. Right? A system is unpatched system is a vulnerability. If there is a lack of process for following up or a standard operating procedure, it's a weakness. The people are not aware about the cybersecurity threats, or they are clicking a lot of phishing links, URLs, or downloading a lot of anomalous files. That means there is a lack of awareness. That is also a weakness, which is a vulnerability. When comes to the next comes is the threat. Threat, there is a definition, and we will talk about the different type of threats as well. Threat is an any event, any actor, or anything which causes or exploit the vulnerability and the resulting harm. Say for example, a unlocked home, which the thief is the threat which exploits, which opens the door and steals the valuables. So that is the impact, is the valuables or the asset has been stolen. That is the threat, which is something is an event, actor, or action where it exploits a vulnerability. What are the different type of threats? There are four different type of threats. One is the direct threat, indirect threat, then about the veiled threats, and the conditional threats. Just quickly look on that. Direct threat is the direct one. Okay, attacking the organization, asking for a ransom, or a veiling, a specific high profile individual is being targeted and getting for financial on getting into that particular type of threat actor or threat vector for getting the financial gain. Then indirect is just vague, or it is ambiguous, like talking in a dark web forum or an hacker forum that there is an attack is going to happen in the retail sector, financial sector, or fashion industry. Those are the indirect type of that, which is not very clear whom is going to get attacked and what type of methodology is being used. It is not clear. And veiled threat is also about harm without stating it. Okay, that is okay, I will see you. That is mostly coming from an internal related things or insider threats, like if you are not doing, you will face the repercussion or you will face the impact, like that. That is also a type of threat, implied but not explicit. And explicit. And finally one is the final one is the conditional threats. If you are not paying the ransom, we are going to destroy your data. You will not get your data back. So these are the direct threat, indirect threat, veiled threat, and the conditional threat. Why we need this? We, according to this different type of threats, we can understand the intention of the attack. We can understand the urgency, the importance, and take appropriate action for the organization. So remember the type of threats. Let me just fold and go back to the next definition. It is all about the impact. What is the impact? Impact is the damage. As we told that a thief came into the home and stolen the valuables. So that is the impact. The valuables has been lost. It is been stolen. And what is likelihood? How probable it is to happen that threat, or how probable that threat could impact that vulnerability. If we have opened a lot of ports and we have a lot of unpatched servers, the possibility of getting an attack is very huge, right? And if we have a unpatched server but we have very limited type of access, then the probability is bit lesser comparing to the lot of opened port. Okay, that is the likelihood, the probability of an attack or the threat exploiting a vulnerability. And finally, the risk. Risk is where the cyber decisions are made, right? Whether we need to get into this budget, or how much budget is to be allocated, how much the staffing, the recruitment, everything is all based on the risk, the organization risk. There will be compliance related things from the regulators, legal, etc., etc. What is a risk? Risk is the possibility of harm, like simple terms like the threat exploiting a vulnerability, and the resulting impact is the risk. The loss of valuables, the stolen jewelry or the money or the valuable items from a home is the risk. Okay, in simplest terms, risk is being explained as the likelihood of an impact. So likelihood into impact, how that impact or how much or the possibility that an impact can happen to the organization. Risk management itself is a very big subject, and it is having the risk identification, right, risk evaluation, then risk analysis, then we have to do the risk management like the risk mitigation, risk transfer, risk avoidance, risk acceptance. It itself is a big topic. We will see something those related areas in another video. With that, I hope that you understood risk. Risk is the base of any cybersecurity decision. These are the very common definition of cybersecurity related to the threat, and you need to understand that. Let's go to the threat landscape. When we are talking about threat hunting, threat modeling, there are a lot of things related to threat. So let's explain and explore what are these things and how it is related to the threat landscape, and how better we can understand and bring it in our day-to-day cybersecurity operations. When it comes to the threat management, it is the non-alerts or the alerts which came to the organization. We need to understand, we need to prepare. We need to prepare in the sense that by properly making the detection, the alert management, right? Proper detection rules and monitoring continuously. Continuous monitoring is one of the important aspect of the risk management. And we have to triage it, whether this is a false positive, true positive, or a benign positive. So we have to see to that. And one of the major areas of threat management is the use case management. We have to prepare for that. We have to understand, or we have to make sure that what are the different threats, like a MITRE attack framework, right? MITRE attack mapping is where we are aligning the detection rules. Okay, when there is a threat happens, we have the system in place to detect that threat. Okay, and when there is a changes in the system, the attack procedures, we need to detect, the detection logic tuning has to happen. There is a use case life cycle. When a system is bringing, or when an attack vector is identified, we have to create, we have to fine tune. Sometimes we have to change the rules. Sometimes the rule itself is not valued, then, or that technology is removed from the organization, then we have to remove those logic as well. So there is a life cycle in the detection. And there is a gap analysis, right? Where here also we are talking about the gap analysis. Then once we align these detection rules as per the MITRE mapping or organization requirement, then we have to see that whether all the assets, one of the major challenges the organization nowadays facing is to understand what are their assets, the CMDB, the configuration management database, right? then 95% of the organization are facing where are my what are my assets. So we should have the clear understanding as a security operations or a threat management professional. We should have the understanding of what are the assets the organization having, and whether we are having proper monitoring mechanism for that. That is what the gap analysis, the logs are flowing, detection rules are in place. Those are very, very critical. Then the MITRE mapping is one of the major part in the threat management, aligning the detection rules with tactics and techniques. We will see MITRE mapping little bit in detail in the coming branches, and identify coverage gaps and prioritize based on the risk. Risk can be either qualitative risk or quantitative. Quantitative will be in the asset value, in dollar value. When it comes to the qualitative, it is like critical, high, medium. It is qualitative methodology. We are not mapping it with a price or a value, but we are giving the severity to that. Then we will create asset severity or the attack severity or the attacker like severity. We will keep it, and we will ensure that these are mapped to the different detection rules. Okay, that's about the threat management. When it comes to the threat intelligence is all about what is coming. Suddenly we get an advisory, right? Then with the IOCs, indicators of compromise, these are the things which can compromise. These are the different type of indicators of attack. These, if these type of indicators are there, that is the attacks. Then indicators of behaviors, IOBs, these are the things that which these behaviors may lead to this particular type of threat advisory, etc., etc. When it comes to the threat intelligence, there are a lot of sources, vendor related, non-vendor related, vendor neutral, like the US computer emergency response team, like now it is CISA. They are giving the threat advisories. And vendor related, like Fortinet, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, this CrowdStrike. There are a lot of vendors in security industry. They also provide the threat intelligence feeds, and there are these paid as well as free threat intelligence tools are available. What are the different type of threat intelligence? One is strategic, which is high level. What type of threat is coming to my industry? What type of coming to my specifically to the organization that I am in, right? What can impact, what risk I am facing? That is strategic threat intelligence. When it comes to the tactical, when there is an advisory, what type of actions we need to take, like a SOC analyst, he has to take, recommend, or do a scanning in the system, the logs, or inform the respective team to take action by blocking the IOCs, etc. That is coming into the tactical. When it comes to the operational, okay, we found that there is an indicator of attack in my infrastructure. What type of action I take? That is where the operational comes in the picture. And threat intel, TTP mapping, okay, always we will be mapping the threat intel with the MITRE framework. Okay, when there is a threat advisory is coming, then we will see that this threat advisory or this threat is equivalent to any of the MITRE attack framework, like the tactics, techniques, and procedures. Then it is very convenient to explain to the leadership and take action. Then according to that MITRE advisory, we can create the detection rules if that is not available, or we can fine tune according to the threat in hand. Okay, then actor profile and tactics and behaviors. So these are the main things. The behavior is the process, the procedure is the behavior of an attack. We create the detection for that, so that we are ensuring that when there is similar attack happens, then we will able to detect and respond much faster. That is all about threat intelligence. It is what is coming. And comes to the threat modeling. Threat modeling is identifying the weakness when we are developing an application, right? We need to understand what are the weaknesses in the system. We will see that through OWASP, right? Open Web Application Security Project top 10 web application threats. We will see to that, and there are threat modeling solutions, like we will identify the asset. Okay, this particular product we developed, what are the weaknesses, what are the test boundaries, whom can access, what level of access we need to provide when an internal employee accesses that application, what level of access, what level of privilege he gets, and when a customer from the external infrastructure or external environment access that application, what privilege he should get, the authorization. Then we have to see that what level of data flow to external and internal, we have to see that. And there is attack paths, and there are different type of threat modeling. One of the major commonly used is the stride from Microsoft, like spoofing, tampering, information, this repudiation, information disclosure, then denial of service, then elevation of privilege. These are the different categories of threats will be mapped with that particular asset or the application or the product that is being developed. Then there are other things like pasta, trike, vast. There are a lot of different type of threat modeling. It is to understand the weakness in the system and ensure that it is being addressed before an attacker find it and attack the organization. That is all about the threat modeling side. It itself is a very big topic. Then comes to the threat hunting. Threat hunting is what we cannot see and predict. We are trying to identify the anomalous behavior. Any attack is in my system, right? It is a proactive searching. It is hypothesis driven, and we can also map with the MITRE. MITRE is attack framework. It comes with the different tactics. What is the goal of an attack? The techniques, how the attack is going to happen, and the procedures, what are the behavior of the attacker. So techniques and procedures, we can map these things and do a proactive hunting to identify any threats are there in the organization. That is all about threat hunting. We will go deep a little bit on that. And comes to the vulnerability management. Vulnerability is all about understanding what is my weaknesses in the system procedures, etc., etc. All are part of, we will do a red teaming exercise on a pen testing, all to identify my weaknesses in the system. Vulnerability management is a periodical scanning of system. Once we identify vulnerabilities, we have to assess the severity levels, what needs to be done, what is high priority, then do a patching, fine tuning, baselining, hardening, etc. And according to the risk rating, like the common vulnerabilities, scoring system, CVSS, EPSS, these are the system which is used by the vulnerability management team to ensure that the vulnerability identified and is patching according to the priority. Okay. There are multiple things. There may be process gaps, there will be lack of hardening, there will be lack of patching of a system. All are related to certain vulnerabilities. When it comes to the incident, it is nothing but there is an incident, there is an alert, there is an attack to the organization. We have to respond to it in a right manner, in a right way. There is a document talking about the computer incident handling guide by NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, 861 R3, one of the very important and critical document for the incident response. In short, incident response is like preparation, like we have it is related to the threat management. We will prepare for that, create the standard operating procedures, create the right use cases aligning with organization requirement, MITRE mapping, etc. Then we have that once the use cases are available in the SIEM, that is security incident and event management, we will able to identify the threats coming to the organization. Then once we identify there is a threat, there is an alert, there is an incident, then we have to contain to not to go far beyond that system or the cluster or the VLAN, etc. Then we have to eradicate, we have to remove that threat. Then we have to recover that from the backup, right? We have the backup offline, online, backup, the tested backup. We have to recover from that. Then we have to finally do a lessons learned. What happened? Why it happened? What would have saved that particular incident? What we need to do in the future to ensure that such type of incident will not happen to the organization. These are all very critical as part of the incident response scenario. That is about incident response. And in very short and in summary, threat management is what we see. Threat intelligence is what may come. and threat hunting is proactively hunting the things which the systems and detection systems and defensive systems might have bypassed. And incident response is how the impact can be handled. And finally, the threat modeling is where we are weak and how we can patch and harden that one or make that changes so that an attacker will not exploit that weakness and vulnerability. This is the basic thing about the threat landscape. Now let's quickly dive deep into the threat hunting. Okay, threat hunting, we have talked about it is the proactive measures we are doing to check whether what are the threats is already in my infrastructure, whether any attacker is already there, his footprint is already there. These are all things which will be monitored as part of the threat hunting. Then it gives the proactive investigation. It is part of a hypothesis driven mechanism, and it is behavior based. We can see about any particular anomalous behavior is happening, and it complements the SOC detection because SOC is already detecting the threats and alerts where SIM may not able to detect something. Through threat hunting we can do that. It augments the security operations. Okay, why it matters? Because the currently very sophisticated attack due to the AI related attacks, right? Very sophisticated are like with attacks which can bypass the signature based detection, the behavior based detections like UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics. We will see to that particular behavior of a system or a process or a user, which can also even evade by changing the threshold, changing the attack mechanism. And reduce, if you have proper threat hunting, it reduces dwell time. Dwell time is the time where an attack happens and the attack detection also by the organization. How much time it takes to detect the attack is the dwell time. If we have proper and continuous threat hunting, we could able to detect about the threats in the organization, which will certainly reduce the dwell time as well. Finally, the early detection, right? Absolutely. If we can able to reduce the dwell time, that means we have the early threat detection from the threat hunting process. We will go to the next line. Next branch, which is about the framework. There is a very simple 6-step framework for the threat hunting. What we need to do. First one is hypothesis. The second one is the query. Third one is data. Fourth one is validation. Fifth one is reporting, and sixth one is the feedback loop. What is hypothesis? We will take an hypothesis. This is very much hypothesis driven, which is why we are not foreseeing anything which is going to happen something, or which we are having a certain alert or incident in hand. Here we are always working on certain hypotheses, like a ransomware attack maybe in my infrastructure. What can be there? What are the behaviors? How the lateral movement may happen, right? How the files can get encrypted. So certain level of hypothesis we will create. Certain times that hypothesis may fail, then we have to go back to the table and bring in another hypothesis and start the threat hunting. How it is been done? It is been done through the query in with the data in hand. The data is the logs from various devices, systems like cloud logs, identity logs, server logs, infrastructure logs, security devices logs. Everything will be coming, and those queries, the database is being queried for various scenarios to identify is there is any threat in my organization or my environment. Then validation, we have to validate this. Okay, I have observed some anomalous activity. Is this really a threat to the organization? Then we have to report. Reporting is very important. We have to report at strategic level, tactical level, operational level. Strategic level, what is the risk, what is the probability of that impact to the organization. Then strategy, what are the measures we need to adopt. If then tactical level, what are the measures we need to adopt. Then this operational level, yes, this is what we need to do right now and in the future to prevent such type of attacks to the organization. Then it's a feedback loop. There is a lack of this this lack of many things, weaknesses in the system, lack of procedures, lack of awareness to the people, many things that is, and lack of detection rules which is aligned with that attack or that particular MITRE attack framework. Then we need to improve those things in the system. This is the 6-step framework: hypothesis, query, data validation, reporting, and the feedback loop, which will help us to do a better threat management process or the threat hunting process. I would like to give you some example of the hypothesis. Let's just quickly dive into that. Persistence, like an advanced persistent threat, then what are the things that happen in my organization as part of an advanced threat? A persistence, a lateral movement, elevation of privileges, like root admin accesses we are seeing or admin accesses we are seeing, and it is getting failed. Okay, those are all part of the threat hunting for a persistence. Then exfiltration, my data movement, there is some data movement happening from the internal to the external world. That is also very critical. Then some example is lateral movement. When you are doing a threat hunting, what are the things you normally observe? Whether any unusual RDP connections, then abnormal behavior that user normally logs in from morning 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock till evening 7 o'clock. Suddenly we are seeing that night 11:30, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. there is some access happening. Okay, then connected odd hours, log on from unexpected location. From IP we can identify there is very unexpected locations the user is getting logged on, and he logged in this time in this IP and another time in another IP within very short span of time. Behavioral based challenges, these are all things we know normally does when we do a threat hunting process. Then another one is credential dumping related to the security system of the Windows. These are some of the hypotheses. There are n number of hypotheses we can talk about. According to the organization requirement, we can frame the threat hunting and we can start initiating that. What are the tools and telemetry, right? We are talking about the threat hunting. What are the tools and telemetry we can use it for this purpose? One is endpoint detection and response, which captures the system logs, system events. We can identify the timestamp, what is really happening. Right? Most of the cases, the logs are sent to the SIM solutions. We can do the hunting from the SIM search base itself. Network telemetry, what is happening at the router, switches, then whatever network related tools are available, right? We can able to take that one and understand the network related threats. SIM is the one of the major tools we can use to do the threat hunting. Cloud logs, which will help us to understand what are the things happening at the cloud level. And identity logs, identity is the new perimeter, every one of you know that. And identity, what are the things are happening, any behavioral changes, right? If identity is lost, it is an entry to the treasure of the organization, right? Those logs are very critical to monitor with regards to the risk, with regards to the behavior of a user, etc., etc. So these are the telemetry and tools which mainly used for the threat hunting purpose. It's a very continuous process. What frequency we need to use do a threat hunting? It is a very continuous process, and we need to identify, even if there are SOC alerts, we can take that alerts and we can do a lot of hunting to ensure that things are normal. If there any lateral movement is happening, of is there any this chain of actions are happening with that particular insight, all can be a part of threat hunting as well. And another one important thing is reporting to the leadership. Recommendation, what are the we have seen about the strategic recommendation, what risk, what impact can happen with that particular threat we hunted. Okay, all those things are very important. What are the next step, what needs to be done in the organization, and a summary of that we have to provide as part of the reporting is very important. Taking with the right asset owner, right leadership, right management, to ensure that they understand the risk and make appropriate or take appropriate action to ensure that those type of threats may not happen in the future. And MITRE attack is one of the major thing which is used to understand, used in the organization to detect various type of threats. There are few things. One is tactics. Tactic is where the goal of the attacker and there are techniques which are the how the attacker is, what are the things that he is using to get into that goal. Then there are sub techniques, then there are procedures, the adversary behavior, what are his behavior for that particular techniques, and the mapping that hunts to the attack. So we will take a particular TTP, then see that okay, this threat is happening in my organization, what are the hunting process that I need to do that. MITRE mapping is one of the main thing which is used across security operation to ensure that the detection rules are aligned with this MITRE mapping, and we will do the threat hunting also based on various hypotheses which is also can be aligned with the MITRE attack framework. That is one of the core thing every security operation person, threat management person, security analyst should know about. Okay, this is all about the threat hunting deep dive on a foundational understanding, and you can start with these things. You can read a lot of this threat intelligence advisories, and which can help you also to do a proper threat hunting in your infrastructure. Let me stop the share, and with this I believe you got a better understanding about the threat landscape and the threat management and threat hunting as well. For this, try to understand this and understand the organization infrastructure, get approval up, just going and hunting a lot of things with proper approval only will safeguard you. So without getting an approval from your manager and the organization leadership, do not do anything related to the threat. Okay, it has to be discussed, it has to be agreed with the owner, the application, the respective authorities. That is very, very important. Okay, with that we are ending this session today, this video, and four more videos about the SOC leadership, career growth, AI in security, security operations with related to the artificial intelligence, what it can do. Subscribe to this video, and I will see you in another video. Thank you. Have a good day.